Recently in our Jerusalem studio, we were joined by Tomas Sandell from the European Coalition for Israel and Simon Barrett, host of the European Report on Revelation TV. We talked about the current situation in Europe. Thomas and Simon, it's great to be with you and great to be here in Jerusalem. You're both here at the same time. That's pretty unusual.
It is very unusual, but it's great to be here.
From your perspective there in Europe, you do the European Report there from Brussels. Can you give our viewers a perspective of what's happening in Europe right now? Thomas, what do you think?
Obviously, as we all see from watching media, there is a clear rise of anti-Semitism in Europe. When we speak about cities like Toulouse, Brussels, Paris and Copenhagen, what unites them are tragic events where Jewish people have been singled out, murdered in cold blood for one reason only, that they're Jews.
Right, right. And Simon, what do you think from your perspective? What do you see in the media and about the rise of anti-Semitism there in Europe?
It's clearly a problem, and the European media identify anti-Semitism as being a problem, but the trouble is they don't name it. They don't see the rise of anti-Semitism coming from the Islamic communities across Europe, who are immigrants who have come in, who are being influenced by imams and teachings and mosques from the Middle East. And the European Commission, European parliaments, they're not dealing with the root cause. Because they're afraid, because of political correctness. So they will deal with right-wing anti-Semitism from the far right, but they won't actually deal with the rise of Islamic anti-Semitism that's fueling this hatred towards European Jewry across Europe today.
Yeah. Now, you just had an election in your country that really was pivotal. Can you explain the results of that and what impact you think that's going to have on Europe and Israel?
Well, two things, Chris. Firstly, it was a great election night for the Conservatives. David Cameron has been the most pro-Israel of all the party political leaders standing in the election. He stood very firm with Israel during Israel's war against Gaza in the summer, and he stayed very, very strong in reassuring the Jewish community in Britain that he will do all he can to confront anti-Semitism. So this is good news. Also, the anti-Israel antagonists that we saw, the likes of many on the Labour Party front bench, others in the Liberal Democrats, for example, who took a very hostile position towards Israel, lost their seats. But also in terms of Europe, David Cameron has promised the British people a referendum on our EU membership. So maybe in 2017 we could see that Britain might actually withdraw from the European Union, and that would have serious consequences for the future of Europe and the European project.
Yeah. Speaking of Europe, Thomas, you just gave a speech, a message at your global prayer call. You talked about the destiny of Europe. What was your message?
Well, I believe it's very much up to us as believers to not just wait passively and only see the negative trends, but to really to raise up and have a voice and be the Dietrich Bonhoeffer of this time, be the Connie ten Boom of this time. And I believe it's a mix. Usually you say it's either or. It's either very dim and we only see negative things, or some people can be naive and think that, you know, Europe is the savior of the world community. I think there's a middle line, and I think the future, yes, there can be troubled times ahead of us with rise of anti-Semitism, rise of Christophobia, but also I think that the best is yet to come for the Church of Christ in Europe.
Yeah, and you're here now there's two conferences going in Jerusalem right now, one about the Forum Against Anti-Semitism, and you have what's called a global prayer call. Explain what that is.
Yeah. The global prayer call was issued in Auschwitz on the 27th of January, which marked the 70th year of the liberation of Auschwitz. It's 100 days of prayer which culminated on Victory Day, the defeat of the Nazis and the end of World War II. So we felt as Europeans that we had an opportunity but also an obligation to pray during this time to warn the nations of the consequences of anti-Semitism. Our chairman, Harald Eckert, is German, and he has a special burden to bring this message out to the four corners of the earth. So here in Jerusalem this week have been representatives from all continents with this clear call to say the time has come to stand up for Israel also at this time, at this pivotal time.
And Simon, final question to you. Do you see hope for the continent right now?
Well, not really, sadly. I mean, the continent of Europe is in a very, very critical position. I think it's important to also reflect on VE Day, Victory in Europe Day, and realise the great sacrifice paid by British, American and Canadian troops in liberating Europe from Nazi oppression. And if Europe is to ensure religious freedom, if it's going to ensure democracy and liberty throughout Europe, then the people of Europe need a greater say. But also we need our European governments to really make a stand and confront anti-Semitism, because it's anti-Semitism that plunged Europe into World War II. And if we don't confront anti-Semitism today in Europe, it's going to plunge Europe into another major conflict.
It's a very, very important point. Simon, Thomas, thanks for your perspective and experience and insight.
Pleasure.
Thank you.